Welcome, welcome. Another podcast with Brunson and Cal. Some meaningful conversations coming at you live. Not really live, actually. This is definitely pre-recorded. It's one of those phrases that seems catchy, so we have to use it. Oh man, so many things today. Me and Calvin just had this awesome conversation about marketing, and I don't know. It's kind of been one of those things. Like we kind of had this discussion about how marketing is literally the lifeblood of business.
Yeah. And how somebody with insane amount of talent, if they're not able to market in a way that reaches a lot of people, or yeah, just there's just basic fundamentals of marketing that if you don't use that talent will stay hidden forever. So
Yeah. Yep. That is well, so yeah, it's funny because when we were talking about this, I was gonna share a story with you, but I was like, I'll save it for the podcast.
nice.
Um, I was out washing windows one day, 17 years old, out there, heat of the day. I knock on this guy's door to clean his windows, and he's like, "Sure, yeah, you can clean my windows." And super cool guy, genuinely the worst windows I've ever cleaned in my entire life. But it's funny, like that's my memory about it, right? It was he had these like really, really fancy windows that had the French style like wood panes through them, so it took forever to clean. So as I'm cleaning them, he just like walking through the house, and I've kind of always done this, but I'm a natural I'm what you might call a very natural interviewer in the sense that I just instinctively like interviewing people. I like hearing their stories. I want to know what makes them tick. So we're sitting there and I was like, "Hey, so tell me, what do you do for work?" And we started talking. Turns out this guy like did advanced robotics for farming. He's creating like all these super revolutionary designs in the farming community. He helped develop Siri. He was one of the main guys that like wrote the code so
Oh,
that
wow.
Siri could become more auto learning. Like he's just a brilliant, like just an obviously very brilliant guy, and it's under his own company. So filthy rich, like so much money. I mean, it's funny because he didn't live that nice a house, but he had so much money. So they told me like, what's your advice? For I'm like, you're pretty much like you're an inventor, and he's like, yeah, I guess you could say so. I was like, what's your advice? He's like, nobody cares if you're an inventor. I was like, what is that supposed to mean? He's like, no one cares. He's like, I could find the cure for cancer today, and no one's gonna know unless you're a good marketer.
Hmm.
He's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, whenever people said like people try to partner with me constantly on projects, and he said the first question I ask is, how are you going to market this? And he said, if they even hesitate, he said, okay, don't even talk to me until you have a plan for that. And he
Wow.
said, I don't care. He's like, I literally do not care what your product is. I don't care how amazing it is. I don't care how awesome it looks, it sounds, whatever. He said, it happens to me daily. People, it's like good ideas are not hard to come by. He said, we all think that is, oh, we just got to wait for someone to create some good ideas. Like there's so many of them out there, it's ridiculous. But if you can't market it, it means nothing. And it was just like, it changed my whole perspective on what business was. Also, Funnel Hacking Live, which I'm so bummed you didn't go to, Cal, but maybe next year, right?
Maybe next year.
Yeah. The guy that spoke, oh, what is his name? Irrelevant. But they did go buy 30 Ferraris for racing.
Oh,
Cash. Literally, they paid cash for an entire Ferrari racing team.
oh my God.
Actually, not Ferrari, Lamborghini. And
Mhm.
he said he's like, these have no insurance because he said nothing, like no company will insure. He's like, this kind of thing, like if you crash a car, it's like, oh, well, there goes $1 million. Like, but he's making so much money, it's insane. And I actually sat and talked to him for quite a while, just kind of one on one, which was an amazing opportunity. I mean, this guy's taken how many companies public? I don't know, something in the ballpark of like 20, 30 companies he's taken public. He just flips companies. He's like, yeah, almost every 2 years. He's like, I just try to
Wow.
get him from zero to flip. And I said,
Wait,
what?
sorry, this is the window washing guy, or this is the
Oh,
guy
sorry.
from Hacking Live?
I'm separating this. Yeah. This is another guy. I can't remember what his name was.
Oh, it's irrelevant. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Follow.
This is the funnel hacking live guy.
Okay.
But anyways, super brilliant man. And we were talking as well. And he said, Brunson, he said it's marketing. He's like, I don't ever look at a product as a product. He said, first I find out, can I market this? And what is the market asking for? And then I create the product around that. He said, I never ever start with product first. He's like, that's the worst thing you can do. Never start with product first. First, find out what the audience wants, how you're going to market it, and then third, find a product that's going to match.
Wow.
And I was like, that's so backwards, right? Because we always do it like, oh, you have an amazing product. Okay, now how can we market this? Okay, and now will our audience actually like it? We put millions of dollars into a project that may not even go through. So that's why that is like that's how I always do it. So it was really fascinating. Really,
Wow. Wow. Dang, that's really cool.
yeah.
I,
So
I think of it backwards. I've always thought of it backwards. Like I'll have an idea or a service or something like that, and then I tend to kind of test it originally. Although it's hard to test a new idea without like and by testing I mean like social testing. Like, do people actually want this?
Mhm.
Like, is it a good idea? Like, I'll ask a friend, hey, is this a good idea? Is this something that you would get? Or um yeah, and then go about the building it and marketing and everything like that. But
Mhm. Well, and that's kind of the ClickFunnels philosophy, but he took it to well. So yeah, he was on stage speaking, and he's like, "Right, we're gonna do an experiment really quickly." He's like, "All right," it's like, "Someone give me a topic," and some guy yells out, he's like, "Golfing." He's like, "All right, golfing." And he just started. It was really weird. I can't remember exactly how he did this, but essentially he tried to dissect the audience. He said, "Okay, how many of you are making X amount?" And like certain people like he's like, "Sit down if you don't fit this criteria." Anyways, he like narrowed it down. He said, I like to always work with the same demographic. He said it's wealthy people who don't care what they spend. And then he started asking him questions. He said, okay, well, he brought up like a handful of people that fit his certain criteria of like they had money to spend, they were of a certain like level into the skill. And he's like, I don't even golf. And he started bringing them up, and he said, okay, how many of you guys, what's your number one pain point with golfing? And one of them's like, just wish I could improve my putt. If I could grant it, like wave a magic wand and like literally grant you a skill, what would it be? He's like, oh, if I could just like putt 20% better. And then everyone, like, it was funny because he said he found that the main thing I think in that crowd was like putting. It was just like that one thing. He's
okay.
like, okay, great. He said, now if I could guarantee you that you would have a 30% better putt after watching my video, what would you pay for it? And he went and like asked this whole group, and all of them were like, he's like, honestly, what would you pay for it? Like, if you were to literally write me a check right now, and a bunch of them were like 5 grand, 10 grand, 2 grand, 1 grand. And it was like, so it was like super fascinating because everyone went through and actually told them these guys all had big money, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He said, I just found out, I found my market. These guys have money to spend. They would actually throw down cash for it. He said, number two, we just found a problem. And he said, now like my next thing would be like, can I market this? He said, if I were to actually create this into a product right now, he said, I might just do it just for fun anyways. He said, I would actually run ads first doing that exact thing. I'd
Hmm.
say, hey, my video will, he said, I would literally run a video that says, I will teach you how to improve your putt. This guy doesn't golf, by the way. I'll teach you how to improve your putt by 20%, more accuracy, more whatever. He's like, I'd run the actual numbers for them. And he said, I'd run ads on that. And I'd actually get them to buy it on pre-release. He said, the video won't drop yet, but like he said, I'd actually try to market them first and sell it before I had the product.
Hmm.
And always sell it with just like a return policy. Like if you don't think this is 100% worth it, I'll refund you your money, no questions asked. He's like, so he said, I'd run probably I was like, I'd probably run about 5 to 10 grand in ads for that specific thing. He said, and then I'd go find a world expert and have him teach me exactly what I just promised. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And that's what he did. That's what he does with all of his products. He said, I first
Really?
find my audience, I find what problems that they want solved, and then I create a marketing solution. Like literally, he makes a promise about what he'll like deliver for them. He sells it before he has the product and says, yeah, you'll get first access to this product. And he said, if I can't sell X amount, I refund everybody and just call it scrap. If my conversions are too low on it and I can't sell it, that means the problem's not good enough. I have to go back to the drawing board. So it's just crazy. Like that's how he thinks about business, was always like, you find out what the problem is. You do not try to start with the product. And the very last thing he does is he delivers a product. And then once he delivers
Wow.
the product, and he said, if people love it and there's like if there's low refunds and stuff, he's like, and people actually seem to really enjoy it. He said, I just dump a ton of money into it and I create an actual product or a design. And he does that with physical products, intellectual products, tutorials, like whatever. Anyways,
That is so
amazing.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
mind-blowing. Holy cow. Wow.
Mhm.
Huh.
And as I'm saying this out loud, I'm realizing I needed to work on this because I've definitely gone product first, even with like my solar right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell a product instead of like saying, well, what does the market actually want right now? What are the needs? What are the pain points out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Because yeah, that's a great question. Because right now, I mean, whenever we've talked about you being out there selling solar and everything, you switch like a couple of different things. Like people really want value right now. Like they
Mm.
want a good price. versus sometimes you'll say like people want ownership, like they want to know that they're owning their power and that they, so like, um, yeah, there's different wants and everything like that. But yeah, like what do people really want? Like,
Yeah.
you know?
No, it's so counterintuitive to the way that we think as humans. Well, not as humans necessarily, but like in our market today, everybody thinks product first. And it's so funny because even as a kid, I'm sure you remember this too. You just gotta have to find that $1 million idea. And
Mhm.
as I've gotten older, I started more marketing. I've learned that the rich don't think that way. They don't think in terms of $1 million idea. They think in terms of like find your audience, just solve a problem. And it's funny because that was like actually my big paradigm shift, even with the way that I sell solar now, is I do not walk into a home thinking I'm going to sell them solar. I walk into a home saying, what problems can I solve?
Mm.
And that the energy, everything just changed when I started doing that. I stopped thinking, because that way, like if even when I walk into a home, people can sense that's my intent. Let me solve your problems.
Yep.
Well, which problems can you solve? And I look through there and I'm like, I got nothing I can solve here. For example, their power bill's not high enough. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is not a problem for you. It's not going to be, right? You're not paying anything for power right now. How would solar benefit you? It won't. I can walk out and I can do it with a very clean conscience and they can respect. It's funny. I've had people, I think I've turned down in just the last couple of weeks, like 4 people actually 100% could have sold them something and didn't,
Mm.
because I said, I can't solve your problem. Right. And it was funny because they respected the crap out of it. Like one of the guys is like, he's like, I've had a lot of door-to-door salesmen come around. He's like, you're the first guy ever to refuse to sell me something.
Yeah.
He was willing to buy. He's like, yeah, I'm willing to go for this. I'm like, I don't know, it's a good idea for you. Like, oh, really? I'm like, I'm not going to sell it to you. Sorry. He's like, no, look at that. So
Huh.
very, very different perspective. But yeah, it's funny as I'm saying this out loud. I'm just like, I hadn't actually thought about this guy for a long time, but I'm just realizing I'm going to totally reach out to this guy again and see if I can get on a phone call with him, because really profound way of like, solve problems first and then come up with a solution how to solve the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I remember when we were doing the one funnel away challenge, that $100 challenge, and their marketing thing was join this challenge and you'll have a website up and running, and you'll be like generating cash from a service or product that you sell within like 30 days, and we went hard, man. uh, but I remember thinking, because they also did it opposite, where you're building the plane while you're flying it,
Yeah.
where you're marketing something before the something is even in existence, like in my in my case, a course, like a travel course, like wanting to
Yeah.
teach travel tips and everything like that,
Yeah.
and marketing and making, yeah, videos and like focusing on all the marketing and just seeing if it was something that people wanted before even having the course. Like that was difficult for me. Just not having something yet, but then, I mean, you're set up so much better, because when you do the marketing first and you don't put all the money and effort and time into creating the product, you can create a product that really fills the need of what people actually want. So there's definitely benefit to it.
Well, and it's funny because I mean, for those that don't know, like I created these necklaces right here. So I'm LDS, which means that they're it's kind of a symbolic thing, but it's part of our religious beliefs that we carry around these. It's full of an oil, and it's just kind of a religious ceremony that we do. But I created these necklaces purposely to like sell them to people of my faith, and to a lot of it was really meaningful. Personally, I love mine, right? I wear it all the time. And it was funny because looking back on that project, had I done it that way, I would have saved myself so much pain. Because what I did is, first I had an idea. Oh, I got an amazing idea for a problem I can solve for Brunson, right? Because I like having my consecrated oil necklace on me at all times. So I created the product first, and I spent 4 months in communication with different factories in China, like trying to get samples sent back and forth. I spent, I think, close to $4,000 on this project.
Wow.
This is my business horror story. $4,000 on this project. The first shipment comes in, I'm stoked out of my mind. I ordered like 1,000 of them, my first shipment. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be amazing. Like I just freaked out about it. and they show up and like, yeah, the chain wasn't quite right. And there's some problems. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll fix this. And I just, like another shipment and there's more problems, like different problems that time. So like, and then finally, I asked a few friends, hey, do you want to buy this? And a bunch of people were like, oh yeah, I totally would get one. And like 30 people come back and say they want it. I'm like, oh, this is a golden idea. I ordered a ton. I ordered, I think, $3 worth of these necklaces. And then I realized I didn't know how to sell them. And I still like, I've got boxes sitting in my house right now of products because my problem was that the market wasn't willing to pay what those things were like, right? I didn't reverse engineer it. Had I first said, okay, my audience is LDS people from this age to this age, what are their problems? And then started thinking, what are the problems? What are the problems? Started like testing different ideas that I could sell them. I should have actually marketed this and pre-sold it before I even ordered them and had X number of pre-sales. And if I didn't get to that number, I just refund everybody. And it's like, hey, sorry, it was a wash. That's it.
Yeah.
But instead, I went and ordered them first and had the product sitting there and ways to ship them way before. It's like, oh, I don't want to let anybody down. Like, well, that's, so that's kind of been that was like a big learning lesson. That was my college education, was a $4,000 semester and learning how to not sell something.
Nice.
Burned that one right to the ground. That's actually like, I think I've burned how many businesses to the ground now? 4 or 5.
Really?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because a lot of them I made money on, but like, again, but it's actually really cool. Like looking back now, I'm super happy that I did all this stuff. And I mean that. I dropped out of college and instead dumped all my money that I was spending on college into dumb little projects like this. I learned so much. Now, if anyone comes to me and says, hey, tell me how do I get a product made in China? I'm like, I can at the very least point you in the right direction for sure, because I've been doing this for months. I've got connections there. I went through several different factories. Like I started networking people that had been doing the similar thing. I know a lot more about product creation than I ever would have. Now, it did cost me $4,000. I only made like 1,000 of it back. So it was the $3,000 education that I learned on that. But
you've got the skill sets and the know-how and the connections.
Yeah, 100% worth it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I got to tell folks at home a really funny story. So one day I'm sitting with Calvin's mom. We're just talking. And I was like, Jen, are you at all sad that your kids didn't go to college? And she said, Brunson, one of the proudest days of my entire life, Calvin walked up to me and said, Mom, I'm not going to college. And she's like, I just felt like I'd finally succeeded as a parent. And I lost it, dude. I was like, what? Like, look where it says that.
Who are you?
Yeah, it was so bizarre. Because even my mom, who's like not really big into college, is like, you need to go back to your degree. And I was like to see a mom say, I'm so proud of my son for not being a sheep, thinking outside the box and pursuing his own path in life. I was like, that's so cool. Anyways, we could go on and on about how much we think college sucks. But
we could. Oh, I love my mom. That's awesome that she was proud of that. That makes me happy.
So funny,
dude. Well, yeah, I don't know if I remember that exact moment when I first told her that I didn't want to do that, but I think she was proud because I had an alternative idea, just and drive to accomplish that. If I had said more of like a lazy personality and just said like I'm not doing that, and I wanted to play video games or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah,
like she'd have a different reaction, but I think her just excitement was that I just was passionate about something else and didn't want to follow the societal norm. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what I think a lot of people miss. People all the time, right? So do you think I should just like drop out of college? And I'm like, absolutely, if you got something else to do. If not, I mean, I think like if you're going to sit around at home, I mean, no way you shouldn't drop out of college if you're going to just sit around. So 100%, I think that, yeah, that's the key, is let college be nothing more than a tool, like an excellent servant, but a terrible master. If you're going there because it's what everyone says you should do, but you've got bigger ambitions and dreams, like just, I don't know, it's like just be like generally common sense intelligence. If you're going to create U School X, which is one of Calvin's projects, for those that don't know, you're not going to learn that in college. No way. Like that's not the point of it, right? So it's like, it'd be ridiculous for you to go drop, $100,000 on an education that's going to not at all benefit the direction you want to go with your life. You want to become a surgeon? Well, yeah, that makes also a lot of sense to go to school. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's what really bothers me. And that's what it's almost hurtful to see people getting into such intense debt for a degree that will not benefit their quality of living for most of them. I mean, if you're getting a bachelor's degree in humanities, like, sorry, like that is literally just hobby money, because that will not increase, in my opinion. I just can't think of a job that's like, oh, you've got a bachelor's degree in humanities. Yes, we'll hire you. You're now top of the stack on who we want to hire. The truth is that if we both went for the same marketing job, and you've got a master's degree in humanities, and I've got 6 months of experience running ads for a Facebook campaign, I'm probably going to still get the job.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no,
It's
tough.
true. No, it's true. And yeah, I just actually finished lunch with a friend who dropped out of college a few weeks ago. Well, at the beginning of the semester, he just decided to drop out, and it was because he realized that he was getting so many music gigs that it was like encroaching in on his time at school. Like he was missing class, like he was canceling gigs where they would pay him money to come and play. um he was canceling those so that he could go to class and work on his music major and do his homework and pay to go to college, you know. And
So
so
dumb.
he's like, wait, hold on, what am I doing? Like I'm literally, this is why I came, and I've kind of reached that point where it's just time to spread my wings and create my own thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
we chatted about that, and that can be scary for sure, dropping out of something or deciding not to go because you have a different passion. But the great thing about being young is that we have little risk.
Yeah.
Or not, I guess, just not as much risk. I mean, if you're single, for example, and you have a dream and an idea, I mean, go for it, you know. You don't, you can live on beans and rice. You can live in a really crappy environment for a little bit if things go south or if it takes a while to get things off the ground. But I mean, if you don't have kids to feed or a
Mhm.
significant other, I mean, yeah, risk is very minimal. So take the risk.
Well, that is one of the most profound things I took away from our friendship was that. Wow, it's really echoing here all of a sudden. Um,
You're in the
well,
corner.
yeah, that's true. I need to see now. It's not. That's funny. I kind of like lean forward a little bit. One of the big things away from our friendship was the realization that we had this conversation. Like, I think one of the early conversations we had in our friendship was that it was really like, I kind of thought of it before, but I didn't crystallize until I talked to you about it. I have no risk right now, right? And there is nothing that says that I have to be. I think that's the big lie that's peddled by probably large scale institutions, you know, like colleges and things, is that you've got to be like, you have to have your life set up by 21. If you don't, you're practically a failure. Like, if you're not already like well geared towards a career, then what are you doing with your life? What that creates in my mind is midlife crisis. Like, you are gearing yourself up for quarter life and midlife crisis for sure. And then you lose a ton of momentum because you spent 10 years chasing something you didn't remotely like, and you're miserable. Like, I'm such a big believer in that now, because I think that's one of the big lies that I bought into in my life growing up was you got to hustle, 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 get your career, and like, okay, now you started your life. But instead, it's like, who cares? You got 5 years, you're not married, you don't have kids, you've got no responsibilities. And I think my future family will thank me for having taken that time to invest in my own sanity, you might say, so that I don't start into a job that I hate, because that's where your family can get hurt. Is if you find yourself hating your job, you're miserable. You're not a happy person. You don't benefit your family by coming home with like this like scowl on your face, nor do you benefit them if at 40 years old, you're like, hey, I can't do this anymore, I'm done. Right? Like, that's not healthy either.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't know. And even like marriage, same thing. It's like, that's a big thing that, and our culture, I think, was really prevalent, was you should get married young. And more, I'm like, I don't know, man. I think some people, it's great. If you've got a pretty confident feeling about who you're with, great, go for it. But I do not think any kind of pressure to say, oh, I should get married just because that's what we do. Because what that creates is that can create bitterness, that can create feeling like you got rushed into a decision that you weren't sure about.
Yeah.
You don't have time to develop a little bit of your own personality before you go into that. So I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's so important to, yeah, just have that, like what you're saying. time to really develop into yourself, figure
Mhm.
yourself out, your personality out.
Yeah.
And yeah, with relationships, with even yeah, school and career wise. I don't know. I don't. I maybe I think a little bit differently, but it was so hard for me to come up with something that I wanted to do. Maybe this is personality based. Some people may.
But you say you think a little bit differently, as in than what I think, or than what common society thinks.
Common society. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I know there's plenty and plenty of people that go to college not knowing at all what they'd want to do. They just do their generals and
Mhm.
hope to find some path like while they're doing that. And that does happen. I know many friends that had no idea what to do, and they started doing their generals and kind of were led in a way that they
Mhm.
liked, and then it
Yeah.
worked out for them. So but I had that kind of personality or mentality where it just nothing made sense at the beginning, like of when it was time for me to go into college, and so just thinking well, why spend time and money now doing what I could do by myself,
Mhm.
uh, and just learn more about myself, my wants, my desires, and take that route. So it's not very conventional, but so much
I,
better in my opinion to figure yourself out a little bit.
yeah, I've got a question that I think a lot of folks would wonder about,
Go for it.
and you're really one of the experts in this. I mean, we've talked. These guys have this will come up a lot, but solo travel is huge. I'm almost like a religious. I'm almost religiously devout to this idea because
Mm.
it's not every personality. Like I've realized in my family, half of us are like driven to be travelers. The other half of my family, of my enormous giant family, very happy to stay in Idaho the rest of their lives.
Mhm.
And that's okay. But for let's say that someone's like, Calvin, I want to get into traveling. I don't know even where to start. It seems dangerous. It seems sketchy. I don't even know what, like, how would I even begin this process? What advice would you give someone who's just not quite sure where to start on this journey, but they feel kind of drawn to go out and see the world?
This is so interesting. Your sister actually messaged me that like a couple days ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's funny, bro. Thanks.
So I can tell
You
you
know where I send people. I'm always like, just call Calvin. Calvin knows this.
I can tell you my response exactly. Like,
Yeah.
um, well, yeah. So I mean, she
That's
was.
Soraya or Karina.
This was Soraya.
Okay, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, just saying that she was headed off to Costa Rica for a couple months and
Hmm.
wanted some advice. And my advice initially is find out why you're going. And I just my advice is I ask questions and I ask like why do you want to go? Are you excited about adventure, about the self-discovery, about like are you where are you at business wise or in your personal life, like are you running from something, like just start asking yourself a couple questions, figure out why you're going, and then build an experience that will will heighten that, so
Mhm.
if your desire is um maybe like I want to become better at making decisions, you know I'm just not a very good decision maker. I can't like make up my mind about something. I'm not a very good like and you just want to improve improve your personality, improve talking to people, getting to know people, then I'd say go somewhere with no plan at all. Just
Mhm.
show up and the things will happen, and you'll have to take a bus somewhere, and you'll just have to learn how to make decisions quickly. You'll have to learn how to talk to people, and I don't know. So there are so many different trips that you could take or go on. And I think it all comes down to why you're wanting to do it. So that would be my first bit of advice is find out why and then go from there. So
I love that. I think we're out of time,
are we?
but
We are.
next episode we're going to talk about solo travel, and let's go into a little more depth on this because we just scratched the surface on something that makes that important.
Sorry about that.
All right, someone wants to talk to Cal.
All right.
Cool. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us on another episode of Semi-Meaningful Conversations. We will see you on the flip side.
Until next time. Bye.